So what does 21st century education look like? Well, I think for the teachers, it's an education where teachers are critical. They know their stuff, they know their topics, they know what they're teaching about, they understand the pedagogy of what they're doing. I think teachers are also knowledge creators. They can do research themselves. They are able to understand what has an impact in their classroom and why it has an impact. So I think the teacher of the 21st century is a teacher that's multi-talented, has many skills, is able to communicate and collaborate with a wide range of professionals, and one that is a very highly professional role. And I think that's what teachers of the 21st century need to be. Well, I think they face many challenges. I think, quite rightly, we place society, parents, children, place greater expectations from our teachers. So one of them is that expectation. And I think managing those expectations and reaching those demands, I think, is a particular challenge. Also a challenge I think that teachers have is the differentiated classroom, is where we have children who are working at different speeds and different rates, but all within the same classroom. And I think that's a particular challenge, to maximize the ability of every child. And that doesn't mean we teach all children in exactly the same way at exactly the same time, but it's really understanding that every child should be able to reach their maximum capability, and that will mean a differentiated classroom. And so I think that's a particular challenge. The challenge that I talked about, a challenge that I think also is learning how to share practice, learning how to give critical feedback to your colleagues without it being seen as negative but supportive, and also learning how to work collaboratively with other people, with people outside of school, with these agencies, maybe with health, understanding the language of the health professional, and so you can work collaboratively greater. So I think there are many challenges, but these challenges are exciting, and I think these challenges can be overcome. Placing the child at the centre sounds easy, and it's not, it's difficult. People have to work hard at it, but children have the right to be at the centre, I think. And it involves listening to children, it involves talking to children, it involves understanding what's in their world, what's in their life, and how they see their world. And then beginning to build upon the children's own networks, we begin to see how the child functions and works. And so by placing the child at the centre means understanding where they are, understanding what affects them, and how we can then bring in different support structures to help the children in that. If you don't understand where the children are and how they function daily outside of school, it's very difficult to bring in the support structures in school to help them. So putting the child at the centre is thinking about a holistic approach to the child, about the community they live in, about the family structure that they support in. And sometimes families and communities need a little bit of help, and so that's the role that we have to do. So placing the child at the centre isn't about just the child in school, it's the holistic world of the child. Part of the key learning is listening to other people, listening to other professionals, listening to the parents, listening to the children. And I think that is a key, is trying to understand where each and every one comes from. And inclusion is tough. It is difficult at times. And it's difficult sometimes to think about, what does this mean for the whole class? What does this mean for every child in our class? And keeping that at the forefront of teaching, I think is a difficult task as well. But I think those are the key elements. Listening and thinking about every child in the class, not just a child with special needs or additional support, we would say in Scotland, is thinking about, well, what is good for the whole class? And what's good for the child with additional support might be good for the whole class too. So we've really got to start thinking about inclusive pedagogies, inclusive approaches for all. And I think that's what I've learned. Sharing practice, sharing practice, understanding what has an impact and why it had an impact. So we need to look back and say that worked, and it's not only enough to say that worked, we have to understand why it worked, and then be able to then translate that and put it into the schools of tomorrow. So understanding the success, understanding the failures. Why didn't this work? We know everything I've read suggests this should work. But understanding that and why it didn't will help us to move forward in the 21st century. So we need to really think about the impact of our work, the impact of our teaching, and to measure that impact so we know what works and why it works. And I think that is what we can take forward into the new 21st century. What is my message to the 21st century? Is to listen to children, take seriously their views and comments, and to share your practice.